Hi everyone, welcome, bienvenue. Welcome to this special Canada Historic Places Days live tour of the Van Horne Estate on Ministers Island. I'm here in southwestern New Brunswick, very close to the Atlantic Ocean, and so pleased to be inviting you to come along with me on this special tour. I'm Natalie Bull. I'm with the National Trust for Canada, and the National Trust is pleased to be the lead for Canada Historic Places Days with great support from Parks Canada. We really see it as an amazing way to bring a national spotlight to wonderful historic places like this one. So before we get started, and I'm sure you're all dying to have a peek into this amazing structure behind me, a few notes about context. So as I said, we're here in southwestern New Brunswick. I'm on an island that's called Ministers Island, and it got that name in the late 18th century, named after Reverend Parson Andrews, who settled here, a loyalist who fled to this area after the American Revolution. But obviously the history is much older than that. And it was amazing to me to think as I drove across the ocean floor at low tide to get to this island instead of coming by boat, about the thousands of years of history and of the Passamaquoddy people who use this site as a seasonal settlement for thousands of years. Behind me, you're seeing a more recent development from the late 19th century, when Sir William Van Horne, the president of the CPR Railway, made it his sort of ocean playground and invested heavily in some incredible structures, including this beautiful barn that's recently had some substantial investment in restoration work. So before we go inside to take a better look at this barn and meet our tour guides for what promises to be about a 50-minute wonderful tour of this incredible place, I'm going to turn the camera so that you can see this landscape, and we'll get a look at the exterior of the barn. And you may also get a peek at Passamaquoddy Bay. You can see a sliver of water there. And then this incredible chateau-esque barn, completely clad in beautiful cedar shingles. And I'm going to walk up to enter this barn. I'm going to put my mask on and meet our guides. And just a note to you that this tour really is for you. So please, whether you're participating by Zoom or participating on Facebook, don't hesitate to share your comments. Tell us who you are, what your interest is in this site. Ask your questions. I've got my colleagues, Sonia Krootwagen, Holly Boulet, who are here to watch for those questions and make sure that they get shared with us here on site. Just heading into this incredible National Historic Site that is owned by the province of New Brunswick and operated by a dynamic local charity. And we're going to meet two of their staff in a moment. So here we are in this incredible barn structure, and I'm pleased to introduce you to Susan and Laura.
Hello.
And I think you don't normally start your tour in the barn, so I think it was a special request, partly because I love barns and because we wanted to make sure to have some time in this beautiful place that has had some substantial investment recently.
That's right. Yeah, so we're going to start today in the barn, and we're going to start heading over this way, and I'll explain the barn to you as we go. But first of all, I will say who William Van Horne was. So William Van Horne was the gentleman that built the railway across Canada and connected BC to the rest of the country back in the late 1800s. And when he had finished doing that, he came down to St. Andrews, New Brunswick, and built his summer cottage, including this barn. So we'll start heading through the barn, but if you notice what you're standing on is the weigh scale. So everything that went in and out of this barn was weighed on this scale. They knew exactly what was happening at all times.
Amazing. And look at the patina of those gorgeous floors.
Yes, yeah. Most of them are the original boards, floorboards. So it was built in 1898, and it cost $20,000 at that time to build this barn. 3-story barn. Top section is the hayloft. Obviously up there is where they would have kept the hay. There was a rail that ran across from one end to the other, that took the hay, you bring it up through the middle and take it by track to where you wanted it to be cooked until you used it again. Now in the barn they had about 50, 60 head of cattle, but his prize-winning cattle were Dutch belted, and I'll explain more about them in a minute. In here is the milking section. This is where the cows were milked. Any food and flowers and everything else that was grown on the island, raised on the island, was sent to him, William Van Horne, in his winter home in Montreal. It was sent by train. So it was put on the train in the evening, and by the next morning it was on his table.
Amazing.
He was way ahead of his time.
It's interesting, Van Horne, we sort of think of him as a railway company president, but he was a very interesting man with a lot of interest in art and
He had
architecture.
more interest than you would ever think of. He invented things.
So he basically kind of went through phases of what he was most interested in. As a small child, he was really interested in geology, but went through astronomy phases. Art, he painted art, he collected artifacts, he was interested in sports,
Yeah.
sailing, croquet, like, and he loved entertaining. He was big on that. He loved his cigars.
Yeah,
real
no,
vast array of interests.
A to Z.
Basically.
This barn is pretty clean and beautiful. I understand that even in the era when it was being heavily used, it was also very, very clean and beautiful.
It was kept spotless. The workers every day would clean it all up. In the evening, they'd place a layer of sawdust on the ground. And right above the weigh scale where you came in, they would put a layer of sawdust, and then they draw the coat of arms into the sawdust. And every morning when William Van Horne came down, that was there waiting for him.
Right.
He did the white glove test in here.
Amazing. Ladies, I'm fascinated by the stanchions and the hay mangers here that I have an old barn also in New Brunswick that has similar fittings. It's nothing like this incredible barn, but it's really neat for me to see. I think these fittings were manufactured by a company called Beatty, and they were made available for farms across the country.
Okay, yeah, that you know more about that than I do, right? Yeah. But it's certainly they are original. You'll notice the steel beams also. You look up there,
Yes,
so,
yes.
like the barn was built in 1898 and it's still standing, although they did do a $2.2 million restoration.
Yes.
But this barn was going nowhere, even at the time.
Yes.
The roof was having problems and things like that.
So tell us the scope of work that was completed as part of the restoration.
You will see it as we go through
Okay.
a lot of it, but the roof was done, the outside shingles were redone. Windows are the original windows, all
Great.
no, they're not replaced, they're
Repaired,
the original
repaired,
ones.
yes, yeah.
We think that's not the word often. Restored. So we'll head through here. Now, we have routes to go so that everyone gets safe during COVID. You have to follow the arrows. And one group does not meet up with the other group if everything works like it should. But this is where the Clydesdale horses are kept.
Ah,
So if you look in there, you can see the size of that stall. It's not a normal stall. You see the open window at the top, that's where the Clydesdales could put their heads through.
wow.
And at the bottom, that one is closed right now, but that's where the feed went in so
Right.
that they could eat.
Again, look at that amazing patina, these fabulous original
Yes, yeah.
boards.
Yeah, so these two are the only two that I guess are original.
The rest have been renovated. In the 70s. There was local farmers here who used it to keep cattle.
Oh, yes.
So they made the stalls a bit smaller with the flooring and also a metal bar across the middle. But you can see on the floor is the bricks, so that would have
Yes.
lasted a lot longer than wood with the size of the Clydesdale horses. And they were the workhorses.
So tell us a bit more about the Dutch belted.
I'm going to tell you
Okay.
heading into that section. So
I guess
might-
because Van Horne was of Dutch heritage, that would have been his breed of choice.
Yes, yeah, and they were beef and dairy. So you could eat them and drink them. Multi-purpose. Two rounded corners here are silos, each one held about 300 150 tons of feed. Now, when before they redid the barn, we only allowed visitors on this main level. If you see the staircase behind you there, that was how the workers got to the upstairs.
Oh, yes.
So you can't exactly do that with the tourists, expect them to be climbing the stairs like that. So what we did, you'll see in a second, is we put the staircases in the silos.
Ah,
So when you walk in this barn now, it's the way it would have looked during Van Horne times. The stairs are hidden, so you don't see them till you're through
perfect.
here. And this is where the Dutch belted cattle are kept. Corners around it as you go in. That way when they came in, they didn't hurt their hides on the way in. They were prize winning, and he did win a lot of awards for them. So these are the stalls. You can take a look down there, and then we're going to go down the staircase to the basement.
What colors were Dutch belted cattle?
We have one right here.
The black and white.
They are definitely belted.
They were black with a white band, kind of like an Oreo pigeon on legs.
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah. One of the prize winning cattle.
Those are our animals from the our parade, our Canada Day parade. float.
Yes.
So we have a few animals in the barn,
They're very well behaved.
well-behaved animals.
They smell great.
Wonderful.
When they did the restoration of the barn, they didn't change very much. They just reinforced, and you'll see downstairs some of the reinforcements. So as I mentioned, this is through the silo. Look up, look way up.
Now, look, we had a funny question that came in asking whether your barn would pass the white glove test.
Not at the moment. But this barn is an inspiration, I can tell you.
So down on the lower level is where the less important cattle were kept.
Less important cattle.
Less important. They had the milking ones, things like that. We'll maybe go into the area that we're not open to tourists.
The
right?
special backdoor tour.
Actually, we might just open this week.
What is this mechanism?
Next question. I'm not sure. The dumbwaiter that I didn't show you upstairs, this is the dumbwaiter that brought things down to this lower level.
Oh, yes.
And we can take a quick look at it when we go back up. But this is where it came to. It brought feed and different things down, not the
Right.
animals.
And wasn't the milk was piped from here?
Pipe from here, and I'll show you right in here. You're ahead of me.
Oops, sorry.
Then you're reading.
Here you see some of the stonework that was done in the restoration. And they've done a beautiful job of fixing it.
And up above, you can see that they use railway beams.
Oh, yes.
So it's quite common for Van Horne to use different
Yes, yes,
materials that they have
appropriate.
access to. But also, we talked about that's probably why it's lasted so long.
Yes, definitely.
Great. No, I was saying to you earlier, Susan, it's wonderful to see the province of New Brunswick investing in a fabulous site like this.
Very much so.
Because there's a lot. It's a huge property with
It's
a
an
lot of.
Important properties. People should see this, and
It's
Canada
so
would be
unique as
Canada.
well.
the way
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, if we didn't have Van Horne, we were just.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So, in here is where the pigs were kept, or sheep, sorry, sheep. Pigs would have had a pigsty, but we have our parade float pig in there. Now, yes, you were asking me about the milk. It was piped underground from a room on the main level down to the creamery, and this is the creamery right
yes.
there. And there it was processed into butter, cheese, milk, and then sent to Montreal every night.
Yes, incredible.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Well, I mean, he was doing then what we're doing now.
Because his train station, his own private station, was right at the head of the bar road.
Yes,
So
and
our
then
station.
from that station, it would have been to Macadam, I
Yeah,
guess. the
exactly.
central
Look back
point.
onto the
Yes.
regular.
Yes.
Right away.
Yeah. The tie into Macadam was between Macadam and that was
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Macadam, that station, my understanding is really opened up development of this area, the sort of seaside resorts.
Absolutely.
I always
quality
say
that
that
it
the
develops.
Macadam train station is like the Toronto airport now. People would land there and then be shipped out.
Because then the architect, Edward Maxwell for Macadam, designed the barn
Yes,
as well. So
yes.
there's parts of the house as well. Many homes in St. Andrews.
Okay, so we're doubling back and going into the last section of the barn that we'll be seeing.
We got a question that came in about the cattle and whether they were on the island most of the time, or did they ever cross the land bridge to graze on the mainland?
No, the only time they would have gone to the mainland was to go to shows, farm shows and things. He went and took them to win awards. They won quite a few awards. That would be the only time they left. There's lots of 500-acre island, so there's lots of farmland here for them.
Lots of fields.
So there wouldn't have been a need for fencing?
They used stone walls. You'll
Right,
see as we
yes,
drive up to the
yes.
house, the stone walls, those were 4 feet high,
Okay.
and that was the fencing.
Back up.
Amazing structure.
Now in here is where a majority of the work was done in the restoration. And a majority of the cattle were kept down in this section.
We can see the remnants of that, the white paint or the whitewash on the structure, that it would have all been white and pure and
Yeah,
part of
very
that,
much so.
part of that sort of clinical aesthetic.
Set here. So when I first started working here, you could read the names on the ends of the stalls. Some of them, most of them are faded.
On these the little
Yeah.
plaques?
Yeah, you can see right there is writing.
Oh, yes.
I know there was a Daisy and can't remember the other. There were a few names.
And this is the manure removal
That's right.
track.
Yeah, the track, it would be come through what I call the poop chutes upstairs into the wagons and then take it out through those doors. Now you can see the beams here. They replicated what
Right.
was here
Oh,
originally.
yes, you can see the splice.
Yes, yeah. So they did a really nice job of keeping it the original look.
And see here in these points, you can see is the kind of in the knee of the ships, the connection to shipbuilders.
Yes,
built,
yes.
the barn, because at the top level, you can see it looks like the upside down part of a hall.
Yes, yes.
Similar to the St. John City markets. Yeah, exactly. the knee.
Yeah, I think there weren't shipwrights that were involved in
Yeah,
building this
exactly.
building.
Yeah.
Exactly. And blue shipwrights.
So we're going to head from here to the house
Great.
so that we can get both the house and the barn in.
So I will follow
Watch
you. Yep. I hope I'm not making people seasick. It's lots of ups and downs.
There's a lot to see in a short time.
So we are going to jump into a car actually and make our way to the main house. So we'll have some time then to have lots of questions. So I hope that you've got the questions piling up there, Sonia.
Yeah, well, we have one already that's very interesting. It could be good for the drive. It's about the Indigenous people who lived on the island and where the archaeological dig was done.
Can you tell us about that in the car?
Of that.
Sounds good.
I can wait till we get to the car and answer it on our way up, or I can answer it now.
Whatever you prefer.
Well, I think I'll answer on our walk to the car.
Okay, sounds good.
Because but before we go, over here is where the dumbwaiter was,
Oh, yes.
but I forgot to contact you with that. The things were put on it, it worked on the counterweight system. It went down, but it had to come up empty.
Neat. Such an advanced structure, like every amenity to make it efficient.
The story is that he paid his workers well. They worked hard, but they were well paid. And of course, they ate farm fresh
Yes.
fruits and vegetables, foods.
And he had a boarding house as well that used to be
Oh, yes.
farm to the left, so he would lodge his employees as well.
Yes, because the traveling on and off the island is pretty restrictive.
Exactly. Yeah, with that tide, we're only accessible for 6 hours and 13 minutes at a time.
6 hours twice
Yes.
a day.
Yeah.
I was warned when I arrived, be careful, don't get stranded.
Well, that makes it interesting. You have some very interesting work hours for the day.
Yes.
So the early settlers on the island were the Passamaquoddy First Nation people. They lived here and hunted and fished in the summer. In the winter, they moved to the mainland. It was warmer. We do not say where they date, where they dug, where they live. They're historic sites, and we can't have people going to see them just for
Right.
safety. So I can't say where
Right.
they are. There's 3 or 4 sites on the island.
Yes, I think there's a famous shell midden, a site here that does have National Historic Site
Yes, there is.
status.
And I was about to point in the direction, and I'm not even going to do that. That's the only one I
Right.
know about, but I do know there are more than one.
Does it have a plaque? Would there be a historic
No.
sites and monuments plaque there?
So there is a plaque at the house
Okay,
for it, but not in the area itself.
right,
Because there is an exhibition space set up in the house. For the Passamaquoddy.
right. Oops, sorry, I should be the one walking backwards, ladies, sorry.
Yeah, keep it up on our toes.
Well, hopefully up on my toes and not in the ground.
We have another question about the barn before we leave it. It was about
Okay.
the electricity and asking whether was there originally electricity or did that come later?
The electricity came later. It was not here original. There is electricity now. There has been. Electricity didn't come to the island till the 50s. So at that point, they brought in electricity for the barn.
Actually, one thing you can point out while you're still at the barn is the weather vane at the top. You can see the depth
Oh,
belted cattle,
yes.
or cow, singular.
That is an original weather vane that during the restoration, the community college took and restored it and repainted it to look like the Dutch belted cow.
You definitely can tell he was very proud of his Dutch
Yes.
belted cattle.
The barn, for anyone who needs to know, it's 151 feet long, 83 feet high, and 56 feet wide. Just in case you want to increase your barn to make it bigger.
So as we're walking to the car and getting settled, I might just take a minute to remind everyone that this is really in some ways heading toward the grand finale of Canada Historic Places Days. And what a fitting site for our final live tour of this year's celebration. But it's not too late to participate in the selfie contest. And it gives you a chance to win $1,000 for yourself, but also $1,000 for the site that you feature in your selfie. Can be any site participating in Canada Historic Places Days. And you can either go there in person if it's possible, or you can do it virtually by going to the website, historicplacesdays.ca. So don't miss your chance until midnight, Saturday, July 31st. Sonia, did I get that right?
Yeah, it sounds fantastic. I think we should get some at the barn now.
Yes, everyone should be doing selfies at the barn. So we're just going to get in a car and head with our masks on and head up to the main house.
Want me to unlock the car too?
I'm trying to hold a selfie stick and put a mask on at the same time.
That's very tricky. It looks very steady, Natalie.
Oops, sorry. Sorry for the jostling for a second here while I get in the car. Thank you very much, Susan, for chauffeuring us up to the main house.
Now you either have to put the seatbelt on or we're going to bang the whole way down. Now, what to do?
This is where I need a official assistant. Sorry, everyone. Right. Okay, we're all buckled in.
There's two parking lots on the island. There's the one right here at the barn area and the one at the house.
We can't hear the audio very well. It might be, is the window open?
Can you put the window back? It's up there. Oh no, that's the lock. Oh, it's okay. Go ahead with the window.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, there's two parking lots. The one here at the barn and the one at the house. So you can park. It's not a lot of walking to get to the buildings, but you have to remember they're large buildings, so there's a lot of walking once you are in them.
How big is the site?
There's a 500-acre island, so it's about 2 miles long and 1 mile wide. There is the creamery right there. And the next building you come to is the little white one here, was the Reverend Andrew Summer Cottage. Or Reverend Andrew home, sorry. He was the first Anglican minister in the town of St. Andrews. He came up with the Loyalists in the 1700s and was the minister in town, but he built his house over here on the island. So that's why it's called Minister's Island, for those who were wondering why it was called that.
We got a question about the land bridge and how it says, how far is the land bridge during the low tide?
From the mainland to the island, it's 1 kilometer. It's actually the ground, the ocean floor you're driving on. So it's 1 kilometer from the mainland to the island. It's about 2 kilometers from the beginning of the island to the, so you can do it with lots of walking trails. We've tried 20 kilometers of walking trails.
And what was really amazing, weed and driftwood and beautiful, beautiful pebbles. It's a great sort of gateway to this experience.
Yes, yeah. And there's days when it's foggy and you can't see the island. So you start out driving the ocean floor and you have no idea where you're going.
Oh, goodness.
Feels like the start of a horror film. So poor thing.
And it's the road, it's not actually a road, it's just an area that you can drive across.
Yeah.
So you're sort of picking your way and thinking, oh my goodness, is this too sandy and muddy, or is it safe?
The important thing to remember when you're driving it is to stay on the hard packed rocks. Do not go to the sandy area. It looks smoother, it looks nicer, but yeah, you're stuck in it if you go in there. So you have to make sure you stay on the rocks.
I'm just going to move the camera to see these
Here-
rock walls. I don't know.
Yes, you can see the rock walls as we go here. And while we're driving, I think I'll give just a quick William Van Horne history so that we can go head right into the house. So the house was built in 1898 and it cost, no, it didn't, that was the barn. Sorry, the house was built between the years 1892 and 1901. We don't have a cost of what it was to build the house. It's William Van Horne moved here with his family in the summertime. There was his wife and his 2 children, his son Benny, who was married and had a son Billy. So Billy was the only grandson. He had a daughter Adeline, and Adeline never married, never had children. She was very interested in the island. Benny, the son, was not. So when she passed away, or when William Van Horne passed away, he left the island to his daughter. She lived in it on the island in the summer, just like her father had done. She farmed the fields. The whole family traveled with her. And then when she died in 1941, she left the island to Billy's daughter, Beverly Ann. Beverly Ann was only 9 years old, couldn't look after an island at that age, so the Royal Trust Company from Montreal, they stepped in and looked after the island for the family. And then in 1961, Beverly Ann decided to sell, sold the island out of the family at that time. And then a couple of owners later, in 1977, that owner decided he didn't want it, tried to sell it, couldn't sell it, so he sold the furnishings. All the furniture in the house, pretty well, he sold. And 3 days into the auction, the province of New Brunswick stepped in and bought it at that time. So it is now owned by the province of New Brunswick, and it's a national and a provincial historic site. They closed it down till 98. Then in 98, they opened it for tours. They were run by the province up until 2006. And a new group took over. They're known as Van Horne Estates on Ministers Island. They are the ones now looking after the island. They can accept donations, they can fundraise, whereas the province couldn't. So since 2013, basically, we have fully furnished the house and the province is helping repair buildings and areas in here. So that's a bit of the history. And we're going to park right here and head into the house.
I'm trying not to give a parking lot view of this beautiful house.
Yeah, I would hear the door.
So beautiful.
We got a question that came in about Minister's Island and whether that was the name, it comes from the name of the Anglican minister that built that White House.
That's
Yes.
right.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
that was named after Reverend Samuel Andrews.
It's interesting when you talked about milk and cream and vegetables going to between here and Montreal to Van Horne's house, his mansion in Montreal. And many of our heritage advocates on the line will know that that house was famously demolished and was a sort of watershed moment for heritage conservation.
That's right. Yeah.
And
that
I
was
guess
her.
that was happening just as the province was deciding whether or not to step in and acquire this property.
It was a few years before, but I'm sure that had a big,
Yes.
big influence on the province buying it.
Because that home was a museum itself.
That home was 3 stories high. It was square. I know I've talked to people who went home from work on the Friday. It was there, and when they came back to work on the Monday, it was
It
gone.
was shocking.
Very sad situation.
So it's great to have the beautiful summer home here.
So we will head in. Now we're at the side of the house. We're unfortunately not at the front, but we'll head around and we can get a nice picture at the front as we go.
And this house was Edward Maxwell as the architect as well?
William Van Horne did the first section by himself, and then he added on to it, and the other sections were Edward Maxwell. The barn was all Edward Maxwell. There were originally 22 buildings. So there's only 10 left now. But he would have had smokehouse, slaughterhouse, laundry, carpenter shop, everything that I think that a school and a church.
Because it was right in this entryway here is where guests would be dropped off
Right.
to enter the home, and it was designed to look like a train station.
How many staff worked on the island then if there were that many buildings and activities?
Sorry, I missed
How many staff would have
They
been
said-
keeping this
They
all
do
going?
say there was 33 full-time. Some of them, then in summer when they were here, they'd bring over part-time people from the local area.
Yeah, he'd bring his own servants from Montreal with
Yeah,
him. And
The house servants came from Montreal with them. They actually came a couple
Right.
of weeks early so that they could get the house all ready for his arrival.
So we're walking under this beautiful porte cochere.
So I'm just taking a long way around so you can get
Okay,
a
great.
picture of the front of the house.
Well, and that beautiful alley of lavender. I'm looking
Yes.
forward to walking up that.
It's over its best stage now, but it is beautiful.
And I might just give a view here.
Now, from here, which you probably won't be able to see because of the fog setting in, is the Algonquin Hotel.
Oh, yes.
It's right over there. You
yeah,
can
like
see it from here.
the tip of it there. Yeah,
Such
We have a
beautiful
comment
landscape and-
coming in from Facebook just saying what fun it is to be able to see this and that the signal is good. It's fantastic.
And it's neat to see the haying happening.
Yes, we do keep the fields cut as much as possible. We have a local area person who brings his cows and he brings his horses over. The cows are in the field,
Oh,
but we
nice.
passed them, but you couldn't see them.
We were a few seconds late starting because of John Deere went by and we had to wait for the sound.
Now, on a sunny day, which unfortunately is not, you can also see the States from here.
Yes.
You can see Eastport, Maine.
Well, and that was a big component of the allure, I guess, of this location and what made it, the Americans arriving here, making it a real
Yes.
seaside resort.
Yes, very much so.
We have beautiful Passamaquoddy Bay here. I've the world.
So this was the front lawn, which was basically ours, except for right here. This was the games lawn. So that would have been kept for croquet, things like
Oh,
that.
yes.
So we'll walk up the walkway and head in. The original walkway is right here. I'm not sure if it's the original brick, but that's how it looked in his time.
And I bet there are historic photographs of fabulous events and parties here.
We don't have a lot. Laura is looking
Not-
for things like that. That's
It's
hard.
not here and there. But
And is there evidence of what the plant material was? Like, was there?
We have a whole
Yes.
book on what plants were here.
Great.
Have you seen that?
I have not.
Yeah, okay. But the lavender is it's a game refuge. So we can't have flowers. The deer eat them. So this year, we always have the lavender, and this year we have orange marigolds.
But the view from the front of the house here is just looking at the water, spectacular.
And so architecturally, what would you say the influences are here?
Well, this is a shingle style house. But like Laura said back there, it's almost like the front of a train. The engine of a
Yes,
train,
yes.
the way it's built.
Especially you can see lots of similarities with the Macadam station.
yes, yes, yeah. And the stone quarried.
The sandstone that you see on the main is quarried down on the
Yes,
beach.
yeah.
That made his swimming pool. He dug the sandstone out with an 8-foot square, 50-foot square, 8-foot deep
Deep.
swimming pool. So tide would come in, fill it up, tide would go out, the water stayed.
Because he's very keen on using what was available on the island.
Yes, yeah.
This front porch is absolutely amazing.
Really beautiful.
Something.
It's like is there a little orchard or something on the side here?
No, the orchard was down back the other way. These are elm trees, or not elm. Yes, elm, but they're grafted to look like umbrella trees.
So let's head on in.
So here is the living room. You see the picture there? That's
Oh, yes.
depicting the last fight. I'll just show you which one the William Van Horne was. So this is Donald Smith. He was the money man, so he was allowed to drive the spike. This is William Van Horne right there. And the other gentleman is Sir Sanford Fleming. He was actually the one who came up with time zones.
Oh, yes.
So some of the items in throughout the house are original. This bookcase is an original item. In here is our Passamaquoddy room. Dedicated to the Passamaquoddy.
Beautiful basket.
Yes, now Passamaquoddy, French and English. There's 50 rooms, 17 bedrooms, 11 bathrooms, and 11 fireplaces. That was consisted of the cottage.
Much to look at.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, how are we doing for time?
We have about 15 minutes left and the video's cutting out just a little.
As we go through the house, that's what might happen. So
Okay.
we'll stay close to windows if
Okay.
possible. I think that helps. So here we have the dining room. The table in the dining room and the chairs are both original to the home. The painting right up there above the fireplace is one of William Van Horne's.
Oh,
He did
yes.
like to paint, and this is one of
Yes.
his. Our newest collection is behind you here. That is, there are 6 of his ships that were in his Montreal home. A museum in Ottawa had them and gave them to us 2 years ago. So we have put them in cases and displaying them. We like to add things every year just to keep.
Yeah, they're all recently restored. And there's some photographs we have from his home in Montreal where some of the chiffons actually were.
Picture of William Van Horne down against the
Yes.
back wall.
I've seen that same photograph at the Macadam train station.
Yes, we have 2 of them here, actually. Dishes are not original, they have been donations to us. We have some very generous people donating items to us. Some of them are original, but a lot of them are time period furnishings. So we're not sure exactly what William Van Horne had throughout the house. There's not a lot of pictures. Laura will be finding us more.
Interesting that Laura is Young Canada Works
Yeah,
intern
exactly. Yeah.
with funding from Canadian Heritage that the trust administers. So that's a neat connection too.
Great.
Where should we go next?
This way, well, we're going to go against the arrows. I'd like to get through the house before we have to leave.
Tanya, how are we doing for video quality?
It's good now. It's still breaking up. It's just little bits, but we can follow.
Here we have the original kitchen with the original coal burning stove.
Wow.
Now that's just a stove. Yeah. I should say it takes 6 men to lift this stove, but I like to tell people, as you go, we have banners that tell every things, interesting items about the house. And there's in orange. Here we have the original ice box. So ice in the middle, food on either side. There were 2 ice houses on the island. One was just outside here and the other was down at the barn area. Servants' quarters, head cook and head butler's bedrooms. And then we'll head up the stairs through the servants' quarters into the main home again.
Just take a peek in here. Slightly less grand spaces, but a beautiful view.
So as I said, these servants came from Montreal with them. We found in the spring and Queen had a good arrival in June. They all had nice windows, nice views. A lot cooler than Montreal probably was too.
And so from Montreal by train, would it be a whole day by train?
8-9 hours. Yeah. And some rooms we have set up the way we think things could have been. This was actually, I do know, was a washroom for the servants. We've turned it into a loom room. In here is what we call our CP room. Items from the Canadian Pacific, and the flag you see here is the original flag that the Van Hornes flew when they were in residence.
St. Andrews by the sea. Worcester.
No. And the captain picked them up. Do they want French? Do they want French? Can you get black and that would be? Go get it.
Sure will.
This room was a bedroom, but William Van Horne did so much. We turned this room into an information room.
Which is better than the demolition of the salon there.
Yes. Right here is one of the ships that we have.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
His wife, and of course the Montreal home at the top. 51 rooms is what I was told it had. Over here we have a display from Edward Maxwell.
Susan, did you already talk about the name of this house?
Copenhagen? No, I didn't, but I can. It was meant safe haven or safe home.
And wasn't that his father's?
It was a few generations back. If you look in here at this bathroom now, he had a great use of light, but there was nowhere to put a window here. So we put a skylight. Now it has been covered over for protection, but originally it was the lights to the outside.
Bathrooms are always fun to show. Any questions, Sonia, for us?
No, there was just a comment saying how nice it is to be able to visit remotely, virtually from other places because of technology. What a gift.
Here in person.
Again, another original skylight and the V shape. This is the biggest. This is amazing.
Wow.
All the details of the cannon. So.
Main staircase, which we're not using through COVID, but this would be in the family.
Yes.
The staircase.
I'm already lost and turned around. So many rooms and big spaces.
When we get to the end, we'll be surprised that you're at the end of where you are. So this is Lady Van Horne's bedroom. You might move a little bit faster. She slept upstairs on this side of the house, and he slept downstairs on the other side. He only slept 4 hours a night, so this way he could get up and do what he wanted to do whenever he wanted to.
We have a question about stained glass windows, whether there were any stained glass windows in the house.
There are a couple of stained glass windows. There's stained glass skylight. They're not ornate, they're not colored. But I will try and see if we can find one on our way back down.
Show you this little fireplace. I'd like to go back and spend the afternoon in that walk-in closet.
Furnishings are not original, but the lights in here are the original gas lights.
Oh, yes.
It was a carbide pellet and water solution that was made in a building just out back of the house, and then it was piped underground into the house for the lighting. He was way ahead.
Yes. And had the money to back up his innovation.
Yes, yes.
Is the house open, I guess, just seasonally? You're open
We're
in
open from the
summers?
long weekend in May up until the end of October. If it's quiet in October, we'll close a little bit earlier, mid-October, but usually it's right to the end. Yeah. 7 days a week.
I would think the climate, the sea air and the moisture it would wreak havoc on the original plaster.
There's no challenge. Yeah, there is a lot of these walls, the walls are the original, the ceilings, some of them have been turned into drywall just to protect. Or just to see. The couch, the 2 chairs you see here were actually William Van Horne. They were in his train car.
Ah.
He had his own train car called the Saskatchewan. Do you notice wheels on the bottom of the couch? They probably were not there on the train. Don't think that would work. The light again, original. And this is this room and the last room are the only 2 that face the front of the house, which has a beautiful view normally. I mean, it's still nice, but the water is right there.
Beautiful. We're seeing that lavender walkway again.
So we're heading into the daughter's bedroom. And then when her mother passed away, she moved up into her mother's bedroom, but until then, this was her room. We're going to walk through bathroom and walk through closet, and we're into the son's bedroom. As I say, the house was built in 3 stages, so this is one of the additions: the son, the grandson's bedroom, and the play area downstairs. Italian marble fireplace in this room. And here ahead, you see a picture of Sir William Van Horne with Billy, his grandson. Billy was his idol. Billy, he just loved Billy. When he was in Europe, which he went to quite often, he would send a postcard a day to Billy. Holland, it is original.
Again, a bit of that Dutch influence.
Yes, and this room is the one where he showed the Dutch. Behind us on the wall, there's 2 paintings as such. The back one that's peeling, you can see, was actually done by Sir William Van Horne for Billy on his 3rd birthday. And William Van Horne did sign it across the bottom.
So that's a mural the whole length of this room. And then this is
the front room was a lady who came to visit one year, about 6 years ago. Saw the condition of the original, so she went back to Victoria, BC, and made up the front panel and sent it to us.
interesting.
So we do have how it should look.
But nice to have that original material.
It would be lovely to. Yeah, we have no heating in the winter. We're working on trying to get some heating so we can save things from really, really bad.
And you can see more of the Dutch influence when you go look at the window.
Oh, yes.
The little building was the gas building for the lighting, and the larger one was the water building. So we had piped underground into the house for water. And he had, for a holding tank, it was a railway car. Railway
Oh,
tanker
yes.
was his storage.
We got a question coming in
Looking
about
at
the
downstairs.
toilets and the bathrooms. When was the house modernized to have those?
At the turn of the century, it was done by the family. It was original to the home.
Is there 11 bathrooms?
11 bathrooms. So you keep it. Go ahead downstairs. 2 rooms I want to show you before, 3 rooms before we get finished.
There's some work here happening on foundations, I guess.
The foundation.
So when you get to the bottom, if you look back at the staircase, you can see the use of light in the staircase. That was light through. And I apologize for the plywood underneath.
Summer cottage. Really nice to have this.
So here is the games room.
Ah,
Billiards table is actually 6 feet by 12 feet, 2 inches of slate, and it weighs over 3,000 pounds. The lights are also original, except they have been converted to electricity. And the walls in this room would be pine, so if this paint wasn't here, it was put on in the 70s, it would be beautiful pine.
gorgeous leaded windows.
Yes, the leaded windows are original.
What about the bison head?
The bison head is not, but we're getting quite attached to it. Actually, not really attached.
He's attached to us.
Oh, and there's a moose on the other side.
So in here, this was William Van Horne's officer studio. The cabinet in here dates back to 1642, and that is original. That would be where he kept his painting supplies. All the paintings in this room are done by Sir William Van Horne. And
Did I hear there were 80? He did 80 paintings or something, a huge number. Of
he did a
paintings.
huge number. I've been told that the company came and they liked to see a view, then he would paint it for them before they left.
Wow.
So 80 to me seems quite low.
Yeah.
Again, another one of his ships. And the last room in the house is around the corner over here, and you might recognize where you are in the house again. Or maybe you don't.
We are coming back to that.
House for COVID, you can do the whole thing without
Yes.
doubling back.
Why don't we head out onto the porch and maybe, oh,
One-
sorry. Oh, this
His
room, yes.
bedroom,
Oh, his bedroom.
his bedroom.
Right off the front.
Right
room.
by the front door, that way he didn't waken anyone when he wanted to get up and go do whatever.
He was a man of action.
Yes. Again, his paintings. The bar is not his, the bar was added later in the 60s by a hunting lodge that owned it, so they felt they had to have a bar. That's basically the only change in the house.
Interesting.
So now, yes.
Amazing.
Porch.
Yes, why don't we head out to the porch and we'll see if we have any closing questions. Maybe Sonia can't hear us. I'm wondering how our internet is working.
No, it's working
Staircases are
fine.
single.
There, let's see, there aren't any final questions at the moment. Let's see if anybody else has some to close out.
People saying that they hope to visit in person. So
Good,
Great.
we hope to have everyone come and visit us.
maybe I'm just going to turn the camera so that we can all be seen here. So just, I think maybe just in closing, huge thanks to the Van Horne Estate on Minister Island Incorporated, the group that operates this incredible site, and to the province of New Brunswick for the investments that they've made to save it and make it available to the public. Big thanks to Susan Gertson and Laura Oland, our tour guides today, who
Well
did an
done.
amazing job of answering all of our questions. Just really get out there and enjoy Canada Historic Places Days, whether you're doing it on site or online. Get those selfies in, your chance to win $1,000 for yourself and for a site that you care about at www.historicplacesdays.ca. Thanks so much to everyone.